Ever wonder why you grab a Coke instead of a Pepsi? Or pick one shampoo over another when, let's be honest, they're pretty much the same? Well, for decades, that's been one of marketing's biggest and most expensive mysteries. And today, we're going to crack it open and look at the science behind why we really buy. Okay, so let's start with a big question. Why do focus groups lie? For years, companies have spent millions on surveys and focus groups, but there's a huge flaw in the plan. We as humans are actually terrible at explaining why we do what we do. It's not that we're trying to lie, it's just that most of our choices are made in the subconscious emotional part of our brain. And that gap between what we say and what we actually do, well, that's the most expensive problem in marketing.
And this problem? It's getting bigger and more expensive by the day. Just look at a market like Bangladesh, where by 2029, a staggering 78% of all ad spending is going to be digital. Imagine that, a massive tidal wave of content. In a world that crowded, understanding what truly grabs someone's attention on a subconscious level isn't just an advantage, it's everything.
So yeah, this really is marketing's most expensive problem. In this crazy fast digital world, your brand isn't just up against the company down the street. Nope, you're competing with global giants on the very same Instagram feed. Just getting a click or a momentary glance, that's not enough anymore. You have to understand the deep hidden reasons behind a choice. And this is where something called neuromarketing comes into the picture. It's a seriously powerful field that uses brain science to get a direct, unfiltered look at how we react to marketing. Forget asking people what they think. This is about measuring what they genuinely feel in that split second of decision. And listen, this isn't some niche sci-fi concept from the future. It's a booming global industry right now, set to more than double to $3.6 billion by 2033. But here's the real story, the part that matters most to us. The Asia-Pacific region is the fastest growing market for this stuff in the entire world. And that brings the opportunity right to our doorstep in South Asia. Take a look at this. Right now, the average person in Bangladesh spends about $23 on everyday consumer goods. In neighboring India, it's almost double that, at $44. That gap represents a huge opportunity for growth. And the brands that will capture it are the ones who go deeper to understand their customers. So let's get into the science behind the choice. I mean, how do we actually know our brains are making these secret decisions for us? Well, the proof comes from one legendary study that honestly changed marketing forever. Get this. Back in 2004, scientists did the classic Coke versus Pepsi challenge, but they did it while people were inside a brain scanner. Now, in the blind taste test, people actually preferred Pepsi, and the reward center of their brain lit up like a Christmas tree. But, and this is the incredible part, when the researchers showed them the brand logos, people suddenly said they preferred Coke, and a completely different part of their brain fired up, the part tied to memory and brand identity. Just think about what that means. The brand, the idea of Coca-Cola was so strong it literally overrode the physical sensation of taste. If you had just done a simple survey, it would have told you, oh, people like Coke more. You would have completely missed the real story happening inside their heads. So how do marketers actually see inside our heads? Well, they've got a couple of key tools. The first one is eye tracking. This one is all about attention. Using super fast cameras, it shows you precisely where a person is looking on your ad or your product packaging, for how long and in what order. It's literally a map of their subconscious focus. And the second major tool is the EEG. If eye tracking measures attention, then EEG measures emotion. You've probably seen those caps with all the sensors on them. Well, they track the brain's electrical signals with insane precision. It can tell you if someone is feeling excited, confused, or even bored while watching your ad. It's no wonder this is the most used method in the industry today.
Okay, so that's the science, that's the tech, but does it actually work in the real world? Oh, you bet it does. Let's dig into a couple of real-world success stories to see how brands use these secrets to win big.
First up, Cheetos. So the company, Frito-Lay, did a bunch of focus groups, and they kept hearing the same thing over and over. I hate that messy orange cheese dust that gets all over my fingers. It seemed like an open and shut case, right? A clear product flaw they had to fix. But then they ran an EEG study, and the brain data revealed the complete opposite. That messy cheese dust, it was actually the biggest source of subconscious pleasure for people. Their brains loved the rebellious, tactile fun of it. So what did Frito-Lay do? They didn't get rid of the mess. They doubled down and made an entire, hugely successful ad campaign all about celebrating that cheesy finger feeling.
And this isn't just some Western thing. A really recent eye tracking study in India looked at how people choose everyday stuff. Soap, shampoo, things like that. The results were fascinating. What people looked at first and for the longest time was a much, much better predictor of what they actually bought than anything they said they cared about, like the price or the quality. Turns out, the eyes really don't lie.
So the big takeaway here, especially for brands in South Asia, is this. Winning that first glance is absolutely critical. In a crowded store or on a busy webpage, you have to use design to grab the eye and influence that choice before the conscious brain even gets a chance to argue. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this is great for giant companies, but what about me? Well, here's the good news. You don't need $1 million brain lab to start using these ideas. Let's walk through a simple framework you can actually put into action. It really comes down to 5 basic steps. 1. Start with a very specific question you need an answer to. 2. Choose the right tool for the job. And hey, there are even low-cost AI platforms for this now. 3, and this is crucial. You have to test the subconscious reaction first before you ask anyone a single question. Then, step 4, you can bring in your traditional surveys. And finally, step 5, you combine everything. Find the real story, and then you act on it. Because this right here, this is where you find the magic. Your biggest competitive advantage is in those moments where the neuro data, what people actually feel, is the opposite of the survey data, what they say they feel. That gap, just like with Cheetos, that's where the gold is buried. Of course, anytime you're talking about this kind of power, you have to talk about responsibility. So we need to touch on the ethics of influence. And the guiding principle has to be this. The goal here is to use these incredible tools for empathy, to genuinely understand what people need and want so you can make better products for them. It's not, and it should never be, about exploitation or manipulation. The risks are very real. We're talking about the potential for subconscious manipulation, the danger of targeting vulnerable people like children, and of course, massive questions around data privacy. I mean, think about it. Your biometric data is probably the most personal information on the planet. Marketers and brands have to tread very, very carefully here. So let's do a quick recap. What are the big takeaways? 1. Today's crowded market demands insights that go way beyond surveys. 2. Neuromarketing is the tool that measures the subconscious why behind our choices. 3. The Asia-Pacific is where this industry is exploding. 4. The tools give us real answers about attention and emotion. And finally, the most important one, ethics are absolutely non-negotiable. And that leaves us with a final, powerful thought. The next generation of truly great brands, both around the world and right here in South Asia, they're going to be built by the people who truly understand the human brain. The only question is, will you be one of them?